I always put at the end of the show, actually, I always say if anybody can introduce me to Quentin Tarantino, or if he's watching and wants to have a chat, then let me know. And
Um,
my other
he,
my other wish list is, you know, Quentin Tarantino.
well, I don't, but he was in Cannes last year when I went. It was the first time
Ah,
I'd gone to Cannes in years,
yes.
about 2 meters away from me. And
Oh,
he was
no
sitting
joke.
by himself having a martini at lunchtime. And I was I was sitting at a table with a casting director and a producer. And we were like, Tarantino's over there. And I've never seen two of my friends just turn into giggling schoolgirls like I did in that moment. They were like, they were looking for their lipstick, to put their lipstick on, and they were going to go and run over to him. But, he had two bodyguards by him. Like, he was literally just 2 meters away. And then slowly, as people started to recognize him one by one, people were going over, and it just became really awkward because you could see he was just not going to have a martini by himself. But then, I mean, he
Yeah,
was in a very public place, in a very
yeah,
public open
yeah,
space. He must
yeah,
have known that he was going to be approached. So yeah, so
yeah.
I've been in
Presents.
his circle,
Mm,
in his presence. Yes.
close. Yes. I mean, you were mentioning just before the show started that you love writing, and that you were doing more writing work as a part of your day job, and but lately you're getting involved a bit more doing producing, and that's kind of spun off the back of Criminal Audition. Is that right?
Yeah, yeah. So I think ultimately I would love to just make a career out of writing. Sadly, that's not always going to be the case. But the producing has become, look, I don't love it, but it's become a necessity to getting things done and being able to do some more writing.
Yeah.
So I think that's something. Funny enough, we were doing me and Sam, who's the director of Criminal Audition. We were doing a call with a filmmakers club here, and we were saying actually a lot of people love all the exotic, exciting things in filmmaking, the writing and some of the acting and more creative elements. But when you say that, well, maybe if you produce a bit, you'll get to do more of that. And I think that's often where people fall down, because it is those ugly parts that people often hesitate on, because there's a learning curve there where you have to sit and learn that business choice.
Yeah.
But yeah, no. So right now the producing has kind of taken over, and it's, hey, if it's paying the bills and oh,
Sorry.
oh.
wrong, wrong button.
I was going to say the intro is very sweeping, and that was almost like on the Oscars where the person's spoken for too long,
That's
and they're
it.
like,
Yeah.
play the music, cut them off, cut them off.
I might
Exactly.
introduce some of that. I've got to admit, I do like. I'm almost as bad as my daughter with some of this gadget, these bits and pieces. I've been gradually sort of upgrading. I like the sound effects. I've got this board, the Rodecaster here now. It's got the coloured buttons with sound effects, and you can create your own. And I've made a couple of like pretty embarrassing sound effects on there, just my own little jingles and such. But my daughter gets on there, and if I didn't stop her, she would probably just stand here all day talking into the microphone or singing to the microphone, and she has the headphones on, and she's just rambling away, and then she's hitting the applause and the laughter things, and she's like, "Oh, thank you," and she thought she had some killer joke the other day, and she was trying to explain to me. I'd heard it, like I was trying to work. They're not supposed to come in here and bother me in the daytime. That rule has never worked at all. And so she she was in here and she's doing that, and I'm trying to work over here. So I've heard this whole ridiculous thing that she's been doing, and then she's like replaying it to me. I was like, oh yeah, and she's like, oh, you should record it. It would go viral for sure. I was like, not too sure. But anyway, it's kind of cute.
Oh,
So talk to us about actually we'll give you a break for a second. So Angie, I'm just going to call you Angie if that's all right. So
yeah, I mean, that's what I do get called. Apart from I just made my acting name on IMDb Angela. It just made sense to be Angie
yes,
to my mate and Angela
yes,
on. Yeah,
Angela, the more
exactly.
formal name, the
Yeah,
grown-up name.
very grown up.
Being a grown-up, it's overrated, isn't it?
so overrated.
You can't wait to get there when you're a kid. Like even my kids are already like, "Ah, it's gonna be awesome. I'm gonna be just to eat ice
Yeah.
cream and stuff." And you're like, "No, it's just you just."
And if you read the book Hurrah for Gin, you realise that we definitely need to give our children that book really early on, so they get the practical realities of life after you get older.
It sounds interesting. So talk to us about what's I guess transpired since you've gone to London. I mean, there's a heck of a lot going on there in terms of
Yeah,
both the theatre space and the film space.
yeah.
I'm gathering that you've progressed from the lofty heights of the only from behind the footage. So yeah, what's happened?
Yeah, so yeah, I got over here, I reckon. Well, so yeah, that poster in the background was the first Cannes Film Festival I ever dared to venture to. So that's how
Nice.
long I've been here. So when Luke was saying before that he started on Criminal Audition in 2009, and then I looked at the poster and I thought, oh gosh, I only got here in in 2007. They went to Cannes in 2008. I'd barely been in the UK, and you've been making that film since then, which is mental. Yeah, so I came over here. I just went, I'm going to be an actor. And I like
Yeah,
stepped off the plane. I'm an actor, darling.
that's it.
It wasn't quite like that because actually the practical realities are it takes quite a long time before people know who you are and you actually start booking work and you get back into the room again with casting directors. So yeah, I came over here, did that. I got some part-time jobs here and there, and then just started auditioning for anything and everything that I could find. So student films, working on independent films, voiceovers, all sorts of things. And then eventually, like, if you plod away at it long enough, then you start to get some credits and you start to work in some things that are decent. You'll get some into an award-winning short that'll go somewhere, and then you'll get into this, and then I've been lucky enough to be called back sometimes by directors, and they've gone, "I want to work with you again." So
That's great.
I clearly haven't been a complete diva on set, which is nice. And so you find that you work with the same people again. And Luke's like, "I'm never working with her again."
Hey, come on. Come on.
He's
First
only
person on
here.
the speed dial. Speed dial.
He's here under threats and compulsion.
So yeah, so it's been really interesting journey. But then weirdly, like in 2009, I had to go back to Australia because my passport, so I live over here as an EU citizen with a Greek passport because my
Yeah,
dad's Greek.
right.
And I've got Greek family in Athens, and that's a very big part of my growing up. But, my passport wasn't sorted, so I had to move back to Australia for 9 months, and I was just like, "Oh, really? Like,
Oh,
come on, I've just been getting into being in London," and I was really sad, but I went and finished that degree I was talking about earlier. So I had 6 more months of university, so I went back to uni, and then I finished uni, and not a word of a lie, I'm working in a coffee shop because there's no work around. I think it was just a really tough time and for everybody. I think we were close to the global financial crisis, but it hadn't
yeah.
happened yet. And then I got talking to a regular customer who used to come in every week, and he asked me what I did, and I said I was an actor, and he said, "Do you do presenting?" And I went, "Yeah, I do." And he said, "I want you to come and show me your presenting work." And he hired me, and back in 2 months later, I was working on Channel 7 every week on a TV show, being the presenter. And
Good.
I was just like, I was in a coffee shop, and then suddenly I was like working on Channel 7. I was beside myself, and so I did.
Oh, sorry. I was cutting.
And you cut,
To
you
both
talk
of
too
you.
long. Stop. Get out.
I don't want you to feel like that at all. I'm the opposite.
Did
Like
it to me as
I
well,
love
Angela. Did it to
conversation
me.
and detail and stuff. So let's keep
Brilliant.
going. You're in the coffee shop.
Yeah.
The
So yeah, so I
presenting,
did
yeah.
that, and then I came back to London. I was like so happy. I was like, oh my gosh, I've done something, fairly decent while I was in Australia. It was a really amazing job, and I had, someone who dressed me every week, and everyone I knew in Australia was like getting to see me on TV. And then they invited me back, and they were like, "You can come back every season now. We'd love you to come back." I was like, "Oh my goodness, I was going to fly back to Australia once a year and do 3 months in Australia." The global financial crisis hit. The show stopped after it had been running for 10 years,
Mm,
and that was the end of that. But what came out of that was it gave me some confidence. It gave me
mm,
a quite decent, credit on my CV to bring back to London.
yeah.
And it's all. I think half of it is like your mindset. I'd come to this country and said I'm going to be an actor, so I was no longer the corporate Ange, and that's what I wanted to do. So I walked that walk. I talked that talk. I tried really hard to be a nice person and not be a jerk, be somebody that people might want to be around, and just worked really hard. Like when all my mates were, all my Australian buddies were going on holidays and having long weekends in all these amazing European countries, because that's what you do when you come here. I was
Yeah.
going to every audition I could in warehouses and strange places, and leaving my flatmates at the time. I'd leave them a message saying, I'm at this address tonight, because I'd been in an audition and I wasn't quite sure where it was in London. So that way I knew if anything happened, they could track me down. It was like that, because I was so keen to get some credits, and it worked, because it helped me to, I did enough auditions, and eventually someone cast me in things and I got to work. And then it just sort of goes from there. And then I got better and better agents, and got some big, really nice, like really big commercials that helped pay the bills so that I could do more of the fun stuff, and got some big
Awesome.
voiceovers. And yeah, that kind of stuff then helps you, because then you get to do the stuff that you really love, like criminal audition. They're the jobs we want to do. But the other work that you do, the other work that you do, the presenting, or some people love presenting, but you might do corporate presenting or voiceovers, you might do role plays or medical role plays. There's all these other acting things you can do that can help you to earn money, so you can do the really cool stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
While you're
interesting
waiting
what
for
kind of
Tarantino to call. Tarantino, call me.
I always put at the end of the show, actually, I always say, if anybody can introduce me to Quentin Tarantino, or if he's watching and wants to have a chat, then let me know. And my
He,
other wish list is, Quentin Tarantino?
I don't, but he was in Cannes last year when I went. It was the first time I'd gone to Cannes in years.
Yes.
About 2 meters away from me, and he was sitting by himself having a martini at lunchtime, and I was sitting at a table with a casting director and a producer, and we were like, Tarantino's over there. And I've never seen two of my friends just turn into giggling schoolgirls like I did in that moment. They were like, they were looking for their lipstick on, and they were going to go and run over to him. But he had two bodyguards by him, like he was literally just 2 meters away. And then slowly, as people started to recognize him one by one, people were going over, and it just became really awkward, because you could see he was just not going to have a martini by himself. But then, he was in a very public place, in a very public open space. He must have known that he was going to be approached. So I've been in his
presence,
in his circle, in his presence,
close.
Yes,
so
but
close.
I didn't slip in my card.
Didn't throw him. Number. It's I don't know. Because I think about these things sometimes, like with the whole concept of fame and what have you. Like like I'm literally in the last stages of doing the first major video kind of announcement of this video streaming service that I've been basically working on since COVID kindly squished my fledgling video production business. But it sort of was kind of, I'm going to call it a blessing in disguise, because I'm an optimistic, hopeful person. And when you see this campaign come out, you'll go, okay, yes, only a very ridiculously optimistic person would do that, because I'm trying to do this, world's first gigantic crowdfunding campaign to basically the goal in short is to raise money to launch to launch the video streaming service. And the platform itself is called Flicks for Good, FLICKS, the number 4 good. And the idea behind it is it's a social enterprise, which is like a not-for-profit for people that aren't familiar. And the main thing is you have to give at least 50% of your profit to the causes that you say that you support. And it was kind of like when my business went kind of down the drain, and I tried to scramble around thinking who else is going to be, doing things, who's going to do better, because I'd been through the GFC and I saw other companies thrive in that environment. So I was like, there's always someone who does better. And even like there was the toilet paper crisis, and I reached out to people who sell bidets. I thought, well, maybe bidet sales might go up. He was actually one of the only people who came back to me out of hundreds of probably messages I sent, and he wasn't actually looking to do business right there and then. And I just thought, oh shit, there's going to be all these people in the Western world who are potentially literally going to have no job or no revenue stream, have very shortly after possibly even no food in their house, because 70% of the population spend what they earn. Even when people are earning good money, often they're living month to month. So, and they've still got their bills to pay. And this was before the stimulus money came out. So I was thinking, oh my goodness. And like again, like being a positive person, I wasn't thinking, oh, I'm not going to end up in a situation where I become suicidal personally, but I thought all those people who are already prone to depression and thoughts of suicide, etc., if now they're in this situation of hopelessness, and unfortunately it has come to be that, a lot of that has happened and domestic violence and stuff like that, but not to dwell on that. So that would kind of, but all that thinking at the same time as tuning into how much money was being spent on video streaming, and it's actually skyrocketed through the whole COVID period. I was just thinking, surely there's a way that we could get some of it,